Can you sleep train while breastfeeding? Do formula-fed babies really sleep better? When is it actually safe to drop those night feeds? And if you're confused about the relationship between feeding and sleep, you're not alone. As an IBCLC and nurse practitioner, I hear these questions daily, and this answers might surprise you. Today, we're diving deep into the science behind feeding and sleep because understanding the connection is crucial, whether you're breastfeeding, formula feeding, or doing both. Hi, I'm Jen, nurse practitioner, IBCLC, and I've supported thousands of families in understanding how nutrition impacts sleep. And I'm here to give you the evidence-based information that respects both your feeding goals and your family's need for rest. So let's start with the most important question. When do babies actually need night feeds versus when are they feeding out of habit? Newborn to 3 months, all babies need night feedings during this period. For breastfed babies, this typically means 2 to 3 feedings per night. Formula-fed babies might go slightly longer between feeds, but still need 1 to 2 night feeds. This is non-negotiable from both a nutritional and growth perspective. Once we turn the corner to 3 to 4 months, we start to see some individual variation. Some babies can go 6 to 8 hour stretches without nutritional need for feeding. Many still need 1 to 2 feedings each night, but weight gain patterns and daytime intake are key factors here. From 4 to 6 months, most full-term healthy babies can go up to 12 hours without feeding. However, this is crucial, this doesn't mean they will. Sleep skills and feeding skills are different developmental milestones. Once we hit 6 months, babies are eating solids and growing appropriately. Night feeds are typically for comfort rather than nutrition. So some red flags that would indicate your baby still needs night nutrition would be a poor weight gain or falling off the growth curve, fewer than 6 wet diapers in your 24-hour period, not meeting developmental milestones, being extremely fussy during the day or showing signs of hunger, and premature babies. Use the adjusted age. Remember, every baby is different, and these are general guidelines, not rigid rules. One of the biggest myths I encounter is that you can't sleep train a breastfeeding baby. This is absolutely false, and it does require some specific considerations. Breast milk is digested faster than formula, every 1.5 to 3 hours versus 2 to 4. Breastfeeding releases hormones, prolactin and oxytocin, that make both mom and baby sleepy. The comfort aspect of breastfeeding can create stronger sleep associations. And milk supply is typically highest at night, making babies more likely to want to feed. So how do you sleep train while protecting your breastfeeding journey? Number 1 is maintaining your milk supply. If you're dropping a night feed, pump or hand express to maintain supply initially, and then gradually reduce that output. Number 2, do a gradual approach. Instead of eliminating all night feeds immediately, start by reducing the duration at the breast or the frequency of the breast. Number 3, strategic timing. Begin your sleep training when your supply is well established, usually after 6 to 8 weeks, and baby is gaining weight appropriately. Number 4, get your partner involved. Have your partner handle some night wakings to break the feed to sleep association. And number 5, make sure the daytime is where we're getting all those calories in. Ensure frequent feedings and maintain total daily intake in the course of those 12 to 14 hours that you're actually wanting to be awake. So how do you know the difference between feeding for a growth spurt or feeding for a habit? Learning to distinguish between these two is crucial for both breastfeeding and formula feeding babies. Signs of a genuine growth spurt would include increased hunger during the day as well as at night. They seem unsatisfied after normal feedings. There's increased wet diapers, but there's also developmental leaps happening at the same time. And the duration is usually less than a week. The signs of a habit feeding would be that they're only increased waking at night. And during the day, there's a normal appetite. They're not crying to eat any earlier than the previous time frame at the same feeding. Babies easily settle with other comfort measures. You offer them a pacifier, you pat their back, and they go right back to sleep without needing food. Feeds are typically very brief, or baby falls asleep immediately when that nipple hits their mouth. The pattern continues for weeks without other growth indicators. And babies can be easily distracted from feedings during the day because they filled up on calories at night and they're not as hungry during the day to make that up. How to respond. During true growth spurts, follow your baby's cues, increase the feeding frequency, especially during the day. This is temporary and necessary for proper growth. For habit feeding, you can gradually reduce feed durations. You can increase intervals between feedings at night, or have someone other than the feeding parent provide the comfort. For breastfeeding mothers, trust your supply to meet increased demands during growth spurts. Don't supplement unnecessarily, as you can actually decrease your supply by supplementing pump if you're giving a bottle or breastfeed when you need to. All right, so sleep and milk. This is where my IBCLC expertise really comes into play. Many breastfeeding moms worry that sleep training will harm their milk supply, while others find that sleep deprivation is actually affecting their supply more. Sleep affects milk supply. We have prolactin, which is the milk making hormone, is highest at night. Chronic sleep deprivation can decrease overall milk production, and stress from sleep deprivation can affect your letdown reflex. And maternal nutrition and hydration both suffer when you're not getting adequate sleep. Some ways to protect your supply during sleep changes. Monitor output for baby. Count the diapers, track the weight gain. Pump when you need to. If you're dropping a night feed, pump at that time initially just to ensure your supply is okay. Power pump during the day. If your supply dips, do a 20-minute power pumping session during the day. Stay hydrated. Sleep-deprived mothers often forget to drink enough water. Skin to skin increases prolactin and oxytocin naturally, which will naturally increase your supply. When you want to be concerned would be a significant decrease in wet diapers. Baby seems constantly hungry during the day. Your weight gain on the baby slows or stops. Your breasts feel soft all the time, even though this can be normal after the 6 to 12 week regulation in your supply. The good news, most mothers find that once they are getting better sleep, their milk supply actually improves due to reduced stress and better overall health. Consider doing your longest sleep stretch during your body's low prolactin time, usually late evening, and maintain that early morning feed when prolactin is naturally the highest. Now let's address formula feeding and sleep. And there's some key differences, but also some important myths to bust. Why formula-fed babies often sleep longer stretches have to do with 4 things. Formula takes longer to digest and more energy to digest, keeping babies fuller longer. There's more predictable intake amounts. You can see that volume in the bottle go down so you know that they're getting a full feeding. Anyone can feed a baby, allowing for more flexible night schedules, and there's no hormonal component for babies or for parents that creates sleepiness. The common myth about formula and sleep: formula babies automatically sleep through the night earlier. That's not true. Sleep is developmental, not just nutritional, and many formula-fed babies still wake up frequently throughout the night. Another myth is that adding rice cereal to bottles will help babies sleep longer. Reality? No, this is not recommended and does not significantly impact sleep duration. For better sleep for formula-fed babies, strategic sizing of those bottles. Get slightly larger bottles before bed. Don't overfeed. We don't want to cause reflux or indigestion for your baby. But a typical breastfed baby will be cluster feeding in the evening. We're going to do the same type of thing for those formula-fed babies, either smaller, more frequent feeds or larger volume ones if the baby can tolerate that. Have your temperature consistency, room temperature or slightly warm milk, whatever your baby prefers. Last bottle should be 30 to 60 minutes before sleep to avoid that discomfort. Have bottles pre-made and ready so that you're not up all night trying to figure out how to mix the bottle when you're tired. When you're age appropriate, gradually reduce the amount in those nighttime bottles and then gradually increase the amount in the daytime. For those who are combo feeding, offer the breast during the day for convenience and bonding, and use formula for night feeds if your partner wants to help. Maintain morning and evening breastfeedings to protect your supply, but be flexible with your approach as your needs change. For breastfeeding families, establish feeding well before tackling sleep. Ensure your adequate daytime feedings. You want 8 to 12 feedings in 24 hours for newborns. And if you crunch them more in the daytime hours, that's great. Consider gradual night weaning rather than abrupt changes. Always monitor your baby's growth and your supply closely. And don't be afraid to adjust your approach based on how both you and your baby respond. For formula feeding babies, don't assume formula automatically means better sleep. Focus on age-appropriate expectations for night feeding. Use the flexibility of formula feeding to your advantage for some night schedules, regardless of how you're feeding your baby. There are some universal principles to keep in mind. 1, separate feeding from sleeping as a skill. Ensure adequate daytime nutrition before you start reducing your nighttime feeds. Make changes gradually when possible. Avoid those abrupt changes. Monitor your baby's overall well-being, not just sleep, and be prepared to adjust your approach as your baby grows and changes. The relationship between feeding and sleep is complex and individual. What works for one baby might not work for another, even within the same family. The key is understanding the evidence, knowing your baby's individual needs, and being flexible in your approach. Remember, both feeding and sleeping are learned skills that develop over time. Your job isn't to force it, but to support your baby's natural development while meeting their nutritional and emotional needs. So whether you're breastfeeding or formula feeding or doing both, good sleep is possible. It might look different than you expected, and it might take longer than you hoped, but with patience and evidence-based strategies, you can help your whole family get the rest you need. I hope this episode helped clarify some of the confusion around feeding and sleep. And if you're struggling, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, your pediatrician, an IBCLC, or anyone in your sphere. And I will see you on the next one.